Every man who sat in the barber's chair lost something. Some lost their hair. Some lost their souls. In the village of Kumari, night never truly slept. Even when the moon hid behind clouds and the fireflies went silent, one place stayed awake: the barber shop at the edge of the red dust road. Its wooden sign creaked in the wind, letters carved deep by a hand long gone. Isaac's barber shop. Haircut, beard trim, walk out lighter. People laughed at that last line. At least they used to. The shop had no doors, only a hanging curtain of cowhide strips, darkened by age and something else no one dared to name. Inside, a single oil lamp burned day and night, its flame unnaturally steady, as if fed by more than oil. Isaac never aged. That was the first whisper. The elders remembered him from their youth. Same sharp cheekbones, same calm eyes, same slow smile that never reached them. His hands were always clean. His white barber's coat always spotless, even during the rainy season when mud swallowed ankles whole. Men came to Isaac for haircuts before weddings, before journeys, before funerals, and somehow, always before deaths. No one said it out loud, but the pattern settled in the village like dust on skin. Those who sat in Isaac's chair often left quiet, thoughtful, changed. Some left thinner. Others never returned at all. Tonight, Kofi stood outside the shop, heart beating louder than the village drums far away. He was young, barely 20, with a head full of thick curls and a future he still believed belonged to him. Tomorrow he would leave Kumari for the city. Tonight, tradition demanded a final haircut. Just hair, his mother had said, forcing a smile that didn't hold. Just hair, the elders echoed, though none of them would meet his eyes. Kofi swallowed and pushed through the cowhide curtain. The air inside was cold. Too cold. The walls were lined with mirrors, but none reflected the same thing. In one, Kofi looked normal. In another, his face appeared older, hollow-eyed. In a third, he wasn't there at all. Isaac stood behind the chair, sharpening his scissors. Snip, snip, snip. The sound cut deeper than metal should. "You are late," Isaac said gently without looking up. I'm sorry," Kofi replied, his voice shaking. "I was told to come before midnight." Isaac smiled. Midnight is when hair stops being just hair. Kofi froze. Isaac gestured to the chair. The leather was cracked, dark stains soaking into its seams. As Kofi sat, he felt a strange pressure, as if the chair recognized him. Isaac draped the cloth around Kofi's neck. It was heavy, warm, almost breathing. "Tell me," Isaac said softly, raising the scissors near Kofi's ear. "What do you wish to leave behind tonight?" Kofi opened his mouth to answer. And in the mirror, just for a moment, he saw someone standing behind Isaac. Faceless, waiting. The scissors closed for the first cut. Nip. The lamp flickered. And somewhere beneath the floorboards, something stirred. The first lock of hair fell like a dead insect. It landed on the floor with a sound far heavier than it should have made. Thud. Kofi flinched. "Relax," Isaac murmured. "Hair remembers fear." The scissors moved again. Snip. Kofi felt it then. Not pain, but a strange pulling, as if something inside his chest had shifted slightly, like a stone nudged from its place. His breath caught. "Did you feel that?" he asked. Isaac smiled at the mirror, not at Kofi. "Everyone does." Another lock fell. This one twitched. Kofi's eyes widened. The hair on the floor wriggled slowly, curling in on itself like something alive before going still. He tried to stand, but the chair pressed back hard. "Sit," Isaac said softly. The mirrors began to change. In the glass directly ahead, Kofi saw himself as he was now. But in the mirror to the left, he saw his mother kneeling by a grave. In the mirror to the right, he saw the city, tall buildings, bright lights, and himself lying in an alley, eyes open, throat dark. What is this? Kofi whispered. What are you doing to me? Isaac paused. He gently brushed hair from Kofi's shoulder, his fingers cold as river stones. I am only cutting what has grown too long. The lamp flickered again. From beneath the floorboards came a low sound, not quite a voice, not quite a breath, more like hunger remembering itself. Kofi's heartbeat synced with it. Um. Isaac bent down and swept the fallen hair into a small wooden bowl carved with symbols older than the village itself. As the hair touched the bowl, it darkened, turning black as ash. You keep it, Kofi asked. I return it, Isaac replied. To who? Isaac finally met his eyes in the mirror. To them. The cowhide curtain rustled, though no wind entered. For a moment, Kofi thought he saw shadows press against it from the outside. Too many, too tall, their shapes wrong. People say you never age, Kofi said quickly, desperation breaking through his fear. They say men disappear after coming here. Isaac chuckled. People say many things when they sense the truth but lack the courage to hold it. The scissors hovered near Kofi's crown. This is where it matters, Isaac whispered. The final cut always does. Kofi felt a wave of dizziness. Memories, his childhood laughter, his father's face, the taste of his mother's cooking, rose suddenly, sharp and vivid. Too vivid. Stop, Kofi begged. Please. Isaac leaned close, his breath cold against Kofi's ear. Long ago, he said, this village made a bargain. Protection in exchange for offerings. First goats, then blood, then something lighter to carry. The scissors closed. Nip. Kofi screamed. Not because of pain, but because something precious slipped away, tearing loose inside him like a root ripped from the earth. Below them the floorboards cracked, and something beneath the shop laughed. Kofi's scream died inside his throat. It vanished the way smoke disappears in rain. Sudden, absolute, unnatural. His mouth remained open but no sound came out. He clawed at his chest, gasping, yet the air felt thick, sour, unwilling to enter him. Isaac stepped back satisfied. Good, the barber said calmly. They heard you. The laughter beneath the floor grew louder. Not one voice, many. Old voices. Dry voices. Voices that had forgotten how to speak like men. The wooden planks beneath the chair began to bulge upward, as if something pressed from below with patient strength. Hairline cracks spread like veins across the floor. Kofi shook violently. What did you take from me? He mouthed, his voice still gone. Isaac dipped his fingers into the wooden bowl. The blackened hair inside pulsed faintly, breathing in shallow, eager movements. Your fear of dying, Isaac answered. That is always the first payment. Kofi froze. Without fear, everything felt distant. Well, the terror should have been unbearable, but instead there was only a hollow calm, like standing at the edge of a cliff and feeling nothing. That's why men walk out smiling, Isaac continued. That's why they walk into rivers, fires, knives, without resistance. The mirrors changed again. Now Kofi saw faces he recognized. Men from the village. The fisherman who drowned with dry lungs. The hunter found smiling beneath a fallen tree. The elder who slit his own throat during a full moon. All of them had sat in this chair. All of them had worn that same peaceful expression. No, Kofi whispered, though he couldn't hear himself. Yes, Isaac replied gently. A sudden knock struck the cowhide curtain. Once. 3 times. Isaac stiffened. That should not be happening, he muttered. The knocking came again, harder now. Urgent. Kofi! A woman's voice called from outside. Open the door. His mother. Kofi's heart lurched, and for the first time since the cut, he felt something push back inside him. Pain, terror, love, fighting to return. Isaac turned sharply. Sit still, he snapped, all softness gone. "You are not finished." The floor split open. A long black hand burst through the planks, fingers thin as roots, nails scraping wood as it reached for the chair. Another followed. Then another. The shop filled with the smell of rot and wet earth. "They are hungry," Isaac hissed. "Do not make this difficult." The knocking turned into pounding. "Kofi!" his mother screamed. The mirrors shattered one by one, glass raining down like sharp rain. In their broken reflections, Kofi saw what Isaac truly was. Not a man but a vessel. Hollow. Bound. Trapped between bargains he could never escape. The chair loosened. Just slightly. Kofi leaned forward. The scissors rose for another cut. And this time, Isaac hesitated. Isaac's hand trembled. It was barely noticeable, but in a shop where nothing ever went wrong, the hesitation was deafening. The scissors hovered above Kofi's head, their blades whispering against each other like teeth testing hunger. Below them, the black hands clawed wider through the broken floor, splintering wood, dragging the smell of graves into the room. "Hurry!" the voices hissed from beneath. "Finish the cut. Seal the offering." Kofi's mother screamed again outside, her fists pounding the wall now, not the curtain. Isaac closed his eyes. For the first time he looked old. Very old. "I warned them," Isaac muttered. "I warned the elders what would happen if they delayed the payment." The chair lurched violently as one of the hands wrapped around its leg, cracking the wood. Another hand brushed Kofi's ankle. Icy, desperate, searching. Something snapped inside Kofi. Fear rushed back into him like floodwater breaking a dam. He screamed, and this time the sound came out. Isaac recoiled as if struck. "No," the barber whispered. "That fear belongs to them now." Kofi surged forward, ripping the heavy cloth from his neck. The symbols woven into it burned his skin as it fell away. He stumbled out of the chair, collapsing onto the floor, sobbing, shaking, alive. The hands shrieked. Not in anger but in panic. Isaac turned slowly, staring at Kofi as though seeing him for the first time. "You were not supposed to feel again," he said. "Once the cut is made, it never returns." "Then why did it?" Kofi gasped. The answer came from outside. The cowhide curtain tore open. Kofi's mother burst inside, eyes wild, hair unwrapped, clutching a small bundle of white feathers and red thread, the markings of an old village ritual long forbidden. "You lied to us," she shouted at Isaac. "You said one from each generation would be enough." Isaac's face hardened. "It was enough," he replied. "Until the village grew greedy. Until they stopped choosing willingly." The floor exploded upward. A massive shape began to rise. No single body but many fused together. Faces half-formed, mouths sewn shut with hair, eyes blinking open where eyes should not be. The true collectors. "They protected us," Isaac shouted over the cracking walls. "From famine. From war. From death itself." "And what did they take?" Kofi's mother screamed back. Isaac looked at Kofi. "At first hair," he said softly. "Then courage. Then fear. Then the will to live." The creature roared. The lamp shattered, plunging the shop into red firelight from below. Isaac stepped between Kofi and the rising horror, spreading his arms. "The debt is mine," he said. "It always was." The scissors slipped from his hand. They fell point down into the darkness. And the shop screamed. The ground gave way completely. The barber shop, once neat, silent, obedient, was now splitting open like a wound refusing to heal. Wooden walls bowed outward. The ceiling cracked, dust raining down like ash. From beneath, the creature rose higher, dragging centuries with it. Faces twisted together. Mouth stretched open but could not scream. Hair, thick, matted, endless, wrapped around its form like funeral cloth. The offerings. All of them. Isaac stood unmoving at the edge of the hole. his white coat already staining dark as the black hands gripped his ankles. "You remember the promise," the voices growled as one. "You were never meant to stop." Isaac did not struggle. "I never stopped," he said quietly. "I endured." The hands tightened, pulling him down inch by inch. His skin cracked not with blood, but with dust, as though he were turning into something older than flesh. Kofi's mother dragged him backward, away from the edge. "Don't look," she whispered. But Kofi couldn't look away. Isaac turned his head one last time, eyes locking onto Kofi's. "Listen to me," he said urgently. "When they take everything, they starve." The creature paused. Its many eyes shifted toward Kofi, toward his mother, toward the living. "They will come again," Isaac continued. "Unless the chain is broken." The hands yanked him sharply. Bone snapped. Still Isaac spoke. "Burn the hair," he gasped. "Every last strand. Return it to the earth. Not to them." The creature roared in fury. "You were ours," it thundered. "Chosen. Bound." Isaac smiled, truly smiled for the first time. "I was their mistake." With a final violent pull, Isaac was dragged fully into the darkness below. The hole snapped shut behind him like a mouth closing after a meal. Silence followed. Heavy. Absolute. Then the shop began to collapse. Kofi's mother ran, pulling him with her as the walls fell inward, the signboard snapping in half, the mirrors exploding into dust. Fire burst from the cracks, swallowing the place where the barber shop had stood for generations. By dawn nothing remained. No shop, no hole, no Isaac, only scorched earth. The village gathered at sunrise, whispering, afraid to step too close. The elders arrived late, eyes filled with a fear they could no longer hide. "It's finished," one of them said softly. Kofi's mother turned on them, fury blazing. "No," she replied. "It's free." That night, they burned the collected hair at the edge of the village. As the smoke rose, Kofi felt something lift from his chest, like a shadow finally releasing its grip. For the first time in years, the village slept without drums, without whispers, without offerings. But deep in the soil, something shifted, confused, wounded, and very, very hungry. The village slept, not because it was safe but because it was exhausted. Kofi's mother stayed awake all night, watching the fire's embers die. Her hands still smelled of smoke and hair, an odor she would never forget. The elders sat in silence, too afraid to speak. Even the children, usually restless, kept close to their mothers, sensing something wrong without knowing what it was. Kofi tried to sleep, but his dreams were filled with scissors. He saw Isaac's face in every blade, and beneath it, those countless mouths stitched with hair, eyes blinking from inside darkness. When dawn finally came, the village looked different. The air felt thin, like someone had taken a breath and never released it. Kofi walked to the river, hoping the water would wash the fear from him. The river was low. Too low. The fish were floating, their eyes open, their bodies bloated. On the banks, the reeds had turned black as if burnt. He saw it then. A trail of hair leading from the village toward the forest. Not human hair. Not animal hair. Something else. Thick, coarse, and strangely warm. He followed it. The trail led to the old shrine at the edge of the forest, where the villagers once left offerings to the ancestors. The shrine was cracked, its statues broken. The air around it pulsed with the same dark hunger that had lived beneath the barber shop. Kofi's hands trembled as he stepped closer. The hair trail ended at a small pile of ash. But the ash was moving. It shifted, forming shapes, faces that rose and fell like smoke. A whisper came from the shrine. Not from the trees. Not from the wind. From the ground. "Thank you," the voice said, gentle and ancient. "Thank you for returning what was stolen." Kofi's blood ran cold. He realized the truth too late. The bargain had never been with Isaac alone. The village had been paying something to survive. And now that Isaac was gone, the debt had returned to the source. The forest around him began to change. The trees leaned inward as if listening. The birds stopped singing. The sun dimmed like a hand covering it. Kofi's mother appeared behind him, holding the bundle of feathers and red thread. "We thought we broke it," she whispered. Kofi turned to her, eyes wide. "We did. But the bargain was never about Isaac. It was about us." The shrine's ash began to swirl, forming a shape like a barber's chair. A chair made of hair. The chair rose slowly, floating in the air. And on it sat a figure. Not Isaac. Something else. A being made of all the hair that had ever been cut in Kumari. An entity of stolen identity, woven from fear, fed by sacrifice. It looked at Kofi with empty eyes, and spoke in a voice that sounded like every man who had ever sat in the chair. "We were not freed," it said. "We were released." Kofi's mother screamed. The hair chair descended, landing softly in front of them. The hair began to move like snakes, wrapping around the shrine stones, creeping toward the village. The bargain was alive. And now it was hungry. Kofi and his mother stumbled back from the shrine as the hair chair began to crawl toward the village like a living beast. The hair slithered over roots, across rocks, through grass. It left a black trail behind, like ink spilled across the earth. The sky darkened again, though it was midday. The village bells rang, not from the church, but from the wind, as if the world itself was warning them. Kofi's mother turned to the elders, who had gathered at the edge of the forest with torches and fear. "It is not Isaac," she cried. "It is the collection." An elder stepped forward, trembling. "Then we must offer something else," he said. "Another sacrifice. Another payment." "No," Kofi shouted. "We ended it. We burned the hair. We destroyed the shop." The elder's eyes widened. "You burned the offerings. You returned the debt. You cannot just refuse the bargain." The hair chair reached the village boundary. The ground shook as it moved. The hair began to detach, forming long strands that reached for the houses, for the people, for the children. It was learning. It was evolving. Kofi's mother held the red thread bundle tightly, her voice shaking. "The bargain was broken," she whispered. "But the curse, it's still here." The hair chair stopped at the center of the village, where the old well stood. It tilted its head, as if listening. A voice echoed through the village, not from the chair, but from the well itself. "Who will pay?" the voice asked. "Who will give me something to hold?" The villagers fell silent. Their eyes darted to one another, searching for the weakness they could blame. Kofi felt something in his pocket. The bundle of feathers. He had taken it from his mother earlier, thinking it was a charm. Now he realized it was the key. The feathers were not for protection. They were for binding. Kofi pulled them out. The feathers were stained with old blood. His blood. He remembered the ritual his mother had performed at his birth. The red thread tied around his wrist. The feathers placed in his cradle. The village had been preparing for this day without knowing it. He stepped toward the hair chair. The villagers gasped. "You're going to feed it," one of them hissed. Kofi shook his head. "I'm going to trap it." The hair chair turned its empty face toward him. The hair strands reached out, curious, hungry. Kofi held up the feathers and began to chant the old words his mother taught him, the words the elders had stopped speaking years ago. The hair froze. The chair tilted. The strands stopped moving. For a moment, it seemed the curse had no answer. Then the chair's hair began to twist violently, like a snake angered. Plunged. Kofi ran. The hair followed. The villagers screamed and scattered. But Kofi ran straight to the well, the binding feathers clenched in his fist, and threw them in. The feathers fell. The hair chair screamed. The well swallowed the feathers. And the ground around the well cracked open again, this time not with hunger but with force. Something beneath the village rose. Not the hair chair. Something older. A giant root system, ancient, thick, alive, rising from the earth like a hand from a grave. The bargain was not just a curse. It was a seed. And it was growing. The ground opened like a mouth. The ancient roots burst upward, twisting and snapping through the village streets. They wrapped around houses, pulled them apart, and dragged them toward the well as if the earth itself wanted to swallow the village whole. The hair chair shrieked again, its sound 1,000 scissors snapping at once. It was trapped but furious. The villagers ran, screaming, but the roots were fast. They moved with purpose, as if guided by something with a mind. Kofi stood at the edge of the well, breathless, heart pounding. He had thought the feathers would bind the curse. Instead, they awakened something older. The well was not just a well. It was a seal. A seal the village had maintained for generations by offering hair, fear, and sacrifice. Now the seal was breaking. The old root system rose higher, forming a monstrous shape, like a tree but alive, hungry and angry. Its branches were thick as trunks, its bark like skin. It reached toward the sky and then toward the village, searching for more offerings. Kofi's mother grabbed him, tears streaming down her face. "Run," she screamed. "We can't fight this." Kofi shook his head. "We can't run," he said. "Not if this is the root of the curse." The hair chair tried to crawl toward the root, pulling itself free of the well's mouth. The roots wrapped around it, crushing it. The hair chair's scream turned into a wet, choking gurgle. Hair strands snapped like ropes. The chair's empty face twisted into a look of betrayal. The root system absorbed it. The hair became part of the tree. The tree drank it like water. Kofi realized the truth in a terrible instant. Isaac was never the curse. He was the keeper. The barber shop was never the source. It was the lock. And the village had been feeding the lock for centuries. The root system grew taller. It looked like it wanted to reach the sky and tear the sun down. Kofi grabbed his mother's hand. "We need to close the well," he shouted. "We need to seal it again." "How?" she cried. Kofi stared at the broken shrine, now half buried in ash. The red thread and feathers were gone, sucked into the earth. The only thing left was a small old barber's razor, buried in the dirt beside the well. He pulled it out. The razor was dull, but it was carved with the same symbols as Isaac's bowl. It was the original tool. The first tool. The one that started it all. Kofi understood. The bargain had been made with a spirit, one that fed on offerings. But it could be trapped again. If someone willingly became the new keeper. Sacrifice. A guardian. Someone to sit in the chair. Someone to hold the lock closed. Kofi looked at his mother, then at the village collapsing around them. He knew what he had to do. He stepped toward the well. The roots surged, trying to pull him in. Kofi raised the razor and cut the red thread tied around his wrist. His last connection to the village's protection. Blood poured, dark and heavy. He dropped to his knees. The roots wrapped around him, not with violence, but with a curious tenderness. Kofi felt the fear return, the terror he'd lost. He let it fill him. He whispered the old words his mother taught him. Words of binding, of duty, of offering. The roots tightened. The well closed. The tree shuddered and began to shrink, as if the earth was finally satisfied. The hair chair vanished completely, absorbed into the root, into the seal. The village stopped shaking. Silence fell. Kofi lay there, blood soaking the dirt, his breath fading. His mother screamed his name, but he didn't move. He understood the final truth. The curse was never meant to be destroyed. It was meant to be held. And now, Kofi was the keeper. When the villagers returned days later, they found the well sealed and the shrine intact again. But the barber shop was gone. In its place, on the edge of the village, stood a new chair made of dark wood, polished, empty, waiting. And in the dirt beside it lay a fresh pile of hair. As if someone had just been cut. As if someone had just taken their place. The village whispered the new warning. Not about Isaac. Not about the barber. But about the boy who saved them. And the one who never left. If you think this curse is over, think again. Subscribe because the next village is already paying.